This is actually, I know it was kind of by design, but having the incoming freshmen for new student orientation just depart about 30 minutes ago, and now ushering in our soon-to-be graduates, or the class of 2024, it's just kind of like I don't know, a weird feeling for me. But kind of like getting them ready for Holmdel High School. Now we're going to spend the next couple hours getting you out of here, which I certainly don't want to rush it. Looking forward to the next 10 months or so with you. But I'm really excited for this opportunity to really get going, accelerate this process as to what is prescriptive for each of you. So when the guidance team approached me with this idea in the spring, I was just so excited and really looking forward to seeing it all come together. And with that, I do want to turn it over to our new assistant principal, Ms. Casey Rizzatello. Ms. Rizzatello joins us from the Brick Township Public Schools, where she oversaw the guidance department there. So although she'll be our assistant principal here, she'll have a keen focus on our guidance department and its programming, specifically grades 7 to 12. So she will kick it off, and welcome, and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kokoda. I usually hate the microphone, so if I'm yelling too loud, I have a very loud voice. Just let me know to simmer down. So again, we want to welcome you. It's our first ever summer college prep session. So you're a part of the first session where we're going to do this with. Really quick, in your blue folders, you should see your transcript. There's our new post-secondary packet that we're going to be utilizing from when students enter in freshman year all the way to their senior year. There's a QR code for our social media, a release of records. And then in addition to that, I would really appreciate if you guys can just fill out the quick surveys. There's both a student and a parent survey. So just make sure either of you are doing that as well. We're going to use that feedback just to kind of drive our decision making for next year. So again, welcome. We're going to go over a lot of topics, how to use Naviance. We're going to even do a walkthrough with that, college visits, financial aid, all of those topics. And then like Dr. Kokoda said, we're going to move to a working session. So if you brought your laptop, you can sit, go through the Common App, go on Naviance, and your counselors will be available then. I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Marasco, who's going to start our presentation. Just kidding, it's now Mr. Flores.
Thank you. Okay, a few ground rules before we start. There's two parts to this presentation. This is the formal part of the presentation. We're going to go through a lot of stuff. Some of it is repetitious because the students have already been through most of this in the spring. Okay, we're just kind of giving you a reminder, refresher, that kind of thing. Because I know when it's not part of your immediate future, it's like, okay, we're hearing this, the counselors are telling us that, and then all of a sudden reality hits and the summer hits, and it's like, oh, what do I do now? So that's why we're doing this, to kind of give you a refresher. So a couple of ground rules. For this portion, we're in here. If you need to, and you actually want to work on stuff or need some help, we are going to move out into the Commons. If you have your computers with you, that would be helpful. And then we can actually work on looking at Common App or Naviance or what have you. Okay, so we could do some hands-on stuff. You're absolutely not required to stay for that. You can leave after the presentation if you like. We're also going to leave the questions that you may have till the end of the presentation just so we can move on. We're each going to describe a portion of the process. If you wouldn't mind, don't get ahead of yourself here. We would appreciate you not using the Chromebook as we're speaking because you're going to miss something, or your phones or what have you. So just pay attention up here. I promise you, if you got questions later, we'll take care of that. So I have a question, and my first question is for the students. How many have finished, worked on, thought about, or heard about the senior packet? Every hand should be up. Okay. How many finished it? Awesome. Okay, now this goes along with emails we've been getting from panicked seniors that we want to get on this. And I have to remind you about something because I'm the veteran here that has done this for many years. And I've been on both sides. I've been a parent. I've gone through it 3 times and gone through probably thousands of students here over the years. You will be fine. You will get through this process. Anxiety is the biggest enemy of this process, and that is for parents and students, okay? We don't want parents stressing out students. We don't want students stressing out parents because you're not doing enough. So we're arming you with the information you need so you will feel confident in the process, okay? That's really key here. So we're giving you all the info. We'll help you if you need, whatever you need help with, whether you haven't begun the process or you're well along and ready to go, we're here for all of those folks, okay? So that's an important thing to remember. Okay. These are the topics we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about a college search. If you don't have a clue, you haven't really thought about where you want to apply, and you need to start from the very beginning, okay? We're going to tell you how to do that. We're going to hopefully not introduce Naviance because you should be well on your way being familiar with the program, because we met with all of you in the spring. If you forgot your login, you don't know your password, whatever, that has to be addressed as soon as possible, okay? It's a simple thing. Standardized testing, SATs, ACTs, all of these will be addressed throughout the program. Letters of recommendation, essays, financial aid, and so forth. Okay, we're going to move on. So what do I do if I have no clue? We start with Naviance. Naviance is a powerful tool. Not only do we use Naviance to send information to colleges, but you use it at the very beginning of the process to come up with a list of schools which may be appropriate for you. And we do that in a variety of ways. There's a section, a link called the Supermatch College Search. If you haven't seen that yet, it's pretty neat. You put in a number of items. It gives you an immediate list of colleges that match those items. We're going to show you a scattergram. How many of you are familiar with the scattergrams that are on Naviance? I think quite a few of you should be. Okay. We're going to show you that. Now, there are other sites as well that are not related to Naviance. Big Future College Search, Niche, N-I-C-H-E, College Scorecard, and those are out there, and there's the links there. You're going to get a copy of this presentation, so you can click on it. And then college visits. Okay, now let's talk about college visits for a second. I hear this all the time. Well, I'm not going to visit these colleges until I get in. I think that's a little backward, because what happens in the process, how do you know these are good fits unless you've visited? And very often what happens when you go on a visit, now I get it. Well, they're out in California or they're a distance. That's a different story. But very often, you'll walk on a campus and you'll just say, oh, no. I did it with my own kids. You know, I traveled many miles for my middle daughter to say, oh, I hate it, before she got out of the car. I hate it. Let's just turn it. No, we drove this far. You're at least going to take a tour. All right? Sometimes you get that gut feeling when you get on a campus. Cross it off. Or, I love it. All right? All of those are very positive reactions. Sometimes you could be like, all right, whatever. They all look the same. Sort of like that. Yeah, like that, maybe a little better. Right? And it isn't until you get closer to the end of the process where you really start to look at things a lot more seriously. All right? But all of these tools are really important. I really emphasize, let me just tell you something about open houses. How many of you have been to an open house? Maybe last year? Okay. If it was a lousy open house, that's a big red flag. That's the opportunity a college has to roll out the red carpet and do everything right. And if everything was wrong, to me, that's a red flag. All right? Now, I have an exception. My oldest child, we went to a campus, I won't tell you what it is. We went to a campus to visit. It was a rainy day. There was construction going on. It was miserable. The projector didn't work. The audio didn't work. Nothing worked. I was ready to get up and, now here I am, a counselor with my oldest daughter, my first child, and I'm ready to, all right, let's go. Then they said, all right, wait, she happened to be a music major. We're going to split the groups up to different disciplines. All right, we'll stay, we'll do that. So we went into the music room, and it just lit us up. The kids were great, the professors were great. Even though the rest of it was kind of lousy, it was like they sold it to us. So sometimes we have to look below the surface a little bit in order to really find out whether this is a place that is a good match, okay? All right, here we go, next slide. So if you have a list of colleges in Naviance, that's what it looks like. And when you click on each of those colleges, you will get general information and usually the link to that college's website. You got some general information there. Deadlines. Now let me tell you about deadlines. They don't care if you get something in super early, because let me tell you, if November 1st is the deadline, they're not looking at stuff until November 1st or after, okay? So that's the deadline, with a few exceptions. We're talking maybe athletes, recruiting, that kind of stuff's a whole different process. Over on the right, you see a little pencil, and Mrs. Marasco is going to go through how to match this with Common App, all of those logistics. But there's a little pencil that you're going to have to do something with later in the year, because here's what happens. We see seniors a lot during this time of year. And then they're like fair weather friends, and somewhere around, once they find out where they're going, we don't see them anymore. They don't tell us where they got in, they don't tell us where they're going, and we're like, okay, we really want to know what happened. So at some point, we're going to bug you to A, tell us where you got in or where you didn't get in, because we need that data for subsequent classes that are looking for that information. I'm going to show you in a minute how we use it. So that's important. So that edit little thing there is where you're going to tell us whether you got in, where you're going, all that kind of thing. So that's something in the future just to keep in mind. This way it's not totally foreign to you when you get there. Okay, here we go with the scattergrams. So again, this is only as accurate as previous Holmdel students told us. They gave us this information. We've got green checks, we've got red X's, we've got blue circles. They all mean something different. So the red X's, those are students that did not get in. And if you hover over that red X, you'll see what that person's GPA and SATs were. Powerful information. If you hover over this green check marks, you'll see the same information. Then there's a little person, a little blue person in a circle up there on the right there. That's you. So that's really good information because it's showing where are you in relation to other Holmdel students. These are only Holmdel students who've applied to that school, and it's over a number of years. All right? So that's really important info. Okay, and then the blues, I didn't tell you about the blues, were students who were waitlisted, okay? So there are a number of students at a given time that are waitlisted, which means, no, we didn't offer you admission at this point, but you may be able to get in a later time. So if you're waitlisted, They're waiting to see how many students commit and enroll. The numbers are down a little bit from previous years. Then they may go to their wait list and offer you admittance. Okay? So that's another possibility if you're willing to wait. Okay, next. All right, this is the big, big question. I had a student that showed me a list of colleges today, and I was very happy with the list because it was a real varied group. It didn't have Harvard, Yale, Penn, Cornell, Columbia, Duke. Okay, that's it. Not good. Because those colleges are reach colleges for everyone. Not just for some kid, for everyone. Because those colleges, you are competing with the world. Not New Jersey, not the United States, the world. So when we say 1 to 2 reach schools, we mean it. You don't want to be faced with a whole list of rejections, which is very upsetting at that point. You want to be able to have a good mix of acceptances, maybe a couple of deferrals. I'll explain what that is in a second, and maybe some wait lists. Most of your list should be target schools that are real good possibilities for you, based on all the research you've done, based on the scattergrams, based on whatever your stats are, whatever other information you've gathered. And safety schools. Now here's the little kick. It's very upsetting when a student says to me, yeah, that's my safety school, and I have to say to them, not really. Because a safety school is a sure thing. Now, the safety school may be an early action, early decision school, which is what we're going to get into the next slide. How could that be a safety? Because you're going to get an early reply that might be a yes. And then you don't have to worry about a safety school because already got into someplace, okay? It's not a safety school if you don't want to go there. My mother made me apply to Rutgers, but I don't want to go there. Because Rutgers is a good school, but I don't want to go there. That's putting a disadvantage of the students that really want to go to Rutgers, but if you have 150 students that applied to Rutgers from Holmdel High School, and the top kids only picked Rutgers as a safety, maybe you're inching out folks that really want to go there that may not be at the tippy top. All right, so you really have to pick a safety that you wouldn't mind going to. Okay, next. All right, here's the biggie. Regular decision. That means you apply in the fall of your senior year, you get an answer sometime in the spring. That's regular decision. Almost every school in the country has some sort of early plan. It's either early action, early decision, restrictive early action, or another animal that's called rolling admission, which nobody really understands, but we'll try to explain it, okay? All right, so you should do early. Early means you're going to apply by usually early November. You're going to get an answer before the holidays in December. That's really nice. The downside of that is senioritis steps in. If you don't know what that affliction is, hopefully it won't hit you early in your senior year. But senioritis slips in because I already got into college, so I don't need to do anything for the rest of the senior year. Wrong. We'll explain that too, why that's wrong. So early action is the best one because there's no commitment. You don't have to sign a contract to say, if I get in, I'm going. Some colleges have only early action. That's their only plan. Some colleges only have early decision, and some colleges have both. Early decision is a commitment. You sign a contract, and you're saying that I can pay the full freight of this tuition, room and board, blah, 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 and I'm committing, and your counselor has to sign it, your parent has to sign it. So early decision, you're not really an early decision kid if you're kind of wavering. And we've had this every year. A student will say, no, I'm definitely early decision for this. Okay. A couple weeks later, you know, I visited this other school and I'm kind of thinking it over. No, that's not an early decision. Early decision is you've committed and you said this is it. All right? So that needs to be a serious discussion with you and your counselor and your parents to determine whether this really is an early decision. Don't try to game the system with early decision, because there's a lot of information out there saying, well, you have a better shot at getting in if it was an early decision, but you really don't want to. You don't want to get in a jam where you're stuck. Okay. And restrictive early action is the least of those. There are a few schools that are saying, no, you're not really committed, but we don't want you applying anywhere else early. And that's kind of, okay. But you really can't. But you're not signing a contract saying you have to come here. And then rolling, that's a weird one, because there are a lot of schools that have a rolling program where you apply, and the way they handle all the applications, they take them as they come. And as they review them, they send out answers. You could conceivably get an answer for a rolling admission school within a few weeks. That's kind of nice because, again, you get an answer and you know you're college bound. All right? Naviance, on that opening page, when you see the list of colleges, will tell you which one of these or which combination of these the college uses. All right? That's an easy way to find out. Or you go to the college website and they'll tell you that. That's it for me, and now Ms. Chandler will take over for the next portion.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mrs. Chandler. We're going to talk about college visits. Mr. Flores, made some valid points about college visits and the importance of the visits and, trusting your gut when you get there, right? So when you're starting the college visits, you want to, watch the calendar, make sure you're scheduling visits when school's in session, when the college is in session. Make sure you don't schedule it for a holiday or a break, because you want to get, the full feel of the college with people on campus, classes going on, so you get the full feel of, the campus. When you're there, you want to meet the experts and the other experts. You want to talk to current students. They may be your peers. You want to stop by admissions, say hello, introduce yourself. If there is somebody that you could speak to, then, ask some questions. Have some questions ready just in case. If there is a sign-up sheet, definitely add your name to that. The colleges do track the applications and the demonstrated genuine interest. That is the point of these visits as well. The demonstrated interest is important. Colleges do look at that during the admissions process. That's why, it is important to not wait until you do get accepted to the school. Try to get there before you get accepted during the admissions process. Take the campus tour. Take an official tour. Get to see the campus. Again, meet your potential peers. And then venture out on your own. This way you could see it from your own point of view. You want to get the feel for yourself, for your surroundings, what the campus has to offer. Is it a safe environment? Do you feel safe there? What is it like outside the campus? Is it a safe environment to go outside the campus? Do you feel comfortable, walking around on your own, with your group, things like that. Be a student for a day or a night. This is a great program that some schools do. Hello. All right. So a student for a day or a night, some colleges do offer these programs. You could sign up to be a student for a day. You could go in. You could sit in on a class. This way you could see how the professors teach. Again, get the atmosphere if you're looking for a certain type of college, if they have large lecture halls, smaller classes, things like that, you could check that out. If you're able to do an overnight, some schools do offer those programs. You could stay overnight on campus with another student, which is a great opportunity as well to get their point of view and their honest opinion of the school and ask those questions that you may not feel comfortable maybe asking on a tour, okay? Save the best for last. As you compare schools, you pick up on the aspects you like and the aspects you're not so fond of, okay? You also figure out the right questions to ask. For that reason, visit your favorite schools last. This, I think, is a good tip. You want to keep a record of every college, whether you do that in your phone, you know, you do a Google Excel spreadsheet or an Excel sheet, or just notes on your phone, voice notes, however you want to keep track of that. You want to keep lists, pros and cons. This is a fun process, but it could be overwhelming as well. And you might forget, you know, if you're visiting a lot of schools, you might forget as you are going through the process. So it's good to have some notes to refer back to, okay? And however you want to keep those notes is up to you. And don't rush to judgment. Mr. Clores gave a good example of when he was at the college, it was a rainy day, things weren't working. But, you know, don't judge a school just on the bad weather or a boring class. You want to trust your gut, okay? Trust how you feel when you're on campus, when you're talking to the students. Again, you might have high expectations and go to a college and not like that college, or vice versa. You might not have high expectations and go to a campus and really love it. So keep an open mind during this process. And it is supposed to be fun and exciting, so try to, you know, be positive during these visits as well. So comparing the ACT with the SAT, we get this question a lot. Which one is better? Which one should I submit? What do colleges prefer? They are different in terms of how they're formatted, how they're graded, and things like that, but colleges do accept both. One is not better than the other. These tests are a way to showcase your skills, your knowledge, okay? So a little bit of comparison. The ACT has English, math, reading, and science. So the science is the different part. The SAT does not offer a science section. For scoring, the ACT is scored on a 1 to 36 scale. The SATs are a 400 to 1600 scale. The length of the test, the SAT is a little bit longer than the ACT. Again, there's no penalty for wrong answers on either of these tests. There are 2 sections on the ACT, reading and writing, and 2 sections on the SAT. They're just formatted differently. The one big one is the ACT, you are allowed to use a calculator on all the math sections. The SAT, you are not. You're only allowed to use it on one of the 2 sections that are offered. And there is a writing option for both of them. The writing test or the essay is optional for both, and again, they're formatted a little differently. For the ACT, it's more of an argumentative essay, and the essay on the SAT is more of an argumentative, like analytical, when you're gonna analyze something that you have read, okay? So again, you know, if you're better in the sciences and you wanna showcase that, then maybe the ACT is the better test for you to take. It's really what you prefer and what you want to focus on. So it's really up to the students to research the testing policy for each college to make that decision on what you want to submit. You should look for the average of the SAT and ACT for each school. Okay, that's how you can make your decision. Again, students are not at a disadvantage for not submitting their test scores if they have a test optional policy. This is another concern that a lot of students have about the test option policy. You're not going to be held, you know, again, at a disadvantage if you don't submit the test. If you do well, obviously submit those scores. If you don't and you feel like you don't want to submit them, then don't. Again, they're going to look at everything when they're during the admissions process, not just the test scores. Feedback from schools is that if you do feel like you did do well, it will complement your application if you do submit the scores. But again, if it's test optional, you know, and you're not going to be held at a disadvantage if you do not submit them. Just an SAT update. This probably is not going to affect many of you in here, but the SATs are going digital in the spring, meaning it will be online. There's a built-in calculator, a countdown clock, a reference sheets, Flagging questions, you could use, the paper SAT is 230 minutes. The digital one's going to be 2 hours. So the timing is much different. Again, it's digital. There's different formatting. But again, this probably isn't going to affect most of you at that point. It's not till the spring that this is changing over. Okay? All right, so now I'll hand it over to Ms. Vona.
Hi, I'm Lori Vona. I'm going to start by talking about essay writing. So the essays for the Common App were published in the spring, and they went out to you in your junior meeting packet that we sent home way back in March. So hopefully some of you have already been taking a look at those, working on those, and beginning to draft an essay, because the summer is a great time to do that. Your essay should show how well you think, how well you write, but most importantly, reveal something about who you are that there may not be another great platform for on the application. So it's your chance to tell something about yourself. It's also a chance to really grip the reader's attention. It's important to open with something that would be very novel and interesting to make the admissions officer want to keep reading and want to know more about what you have to say. It's important to address the prompt at hand and pay attention to limitations for word count and proofread. So it's really an opportunity to also show that you can follow directions, right? So they want to see that you're paying attention to the parameters that they put out there and adhering to them. Once you're done composing your essay, having someone read it over, so an English teacher might be a good person to do this, parent, school counselor, or even a college English major would be great examples of people who can read over your finished product. So in addition to essays, there are also sometimes supplemental questions that colleges have out there that you want to take a look at and formulate short answers to. So you always want to make sure with the Common App that you've taken a look and make sure that the school doesn't have supplements that you might have to complete and send in along with the traditional essay. Teacher recommendations. So hopefully some of you have already initiated this process and asked teachers for letters of recommendation. The initial contact for a teacher recommendation should be made in person with a verbal request from that teacher. You want to think about somebody who knows you well, can say something kind, and provide anecdotal information. Those would all be good traits of a recommender that you're selecting for yourself. Once a teacher has agreed to write for you, your next step will be to add that teacher into Naviance. And we're going to take a look at that right now. Okay, you know what, Ms. Marasco is going to go through that actually when she opens the Naviance platform. But basically what you'll do is in the colleges section of Naviance, there'll be a drop down where you'll select letters of recommendation. You'll be able to select the teacher that you're wanting to ask. You'll be able to indicate if you're asking them for all colleges or just select colleges on your list. And finally, you'll be able to include a note if you'd like, kind of just thanking them or reminding them of any important information that you want them to include or you want to share. Okay, keep in mind, too many recommendations can reduce the enthusiasm of an admissions officer to carefully read each one. So you want to make sure that each one includes something kind of unique and from a new vantage point. Most schools request 2 letters of recommendation in addition to the counselor letter. So your counselor letter does not count as one of those 2. You want to provide the recommenders that you're asking with a list of schools that you're applying to. Oftentimes students will say to me, yeah, but they can see it in Naviance. I don't really need to give them the list. But really the best way to do it is to give them a list of schools so that they have a reference point of exactly which schools you'd like them to send to. You want to include on that list if the school is an electronic partner with Naviance. So if you think back to what Mr. Flores shared in his list, and in Naviance next to each college name, it includes an icon that's either of a computer screen or of a postage stamp. If it's of a computer screen, you can share that it's an electronic submission. If it's of a postage stamp, it's a mail submission, so traditional envelopes and stamps. And speaking of that, if it is going to be traditional envelopes and stamps, it's up to you to provide that to the teacher. So you would want to write out and address the envelopes, put Holmdel High School as a return address, and place a stamp on each one of those envelopes. As you can imagine, over the years, the hard copy recommendations have become fewer and further between, and most schools are electronic. But if you do find that you have one out there that needs to be mailed, that's the policy to adhere to. Okay, our senior packet. So senior packet is something Mr. Flores discussed at the very beginning of the meeting, kind of how we opened up with who's been working on it, who's heard about it. It's certainly something that we hope you have done over the summer months. So of the areas that we want you to be working on right now, that's the first one to get started on. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Requesting letters of recommendation from teachers is next. Working on applications and completing them is another. And finally, sending standardized test scores directly to schools. And as Ms. Chandler discussed, many schools are test optional. So the first thing you'll want to do is take a look at the schools on your list, determine if they are test optional, make a determination as to if this score is an asset for your application, and then finally send those scores out directly through either College Board or ACT, as they won't be included on your transcript because that would not be considered an official report of the score. So you will have to send those scores out through those third parties. Okay, so our senior packet, hopefully this is review for all of you, but the senior packet consists of the records release form, which requires signatures from you and your parents in a couple of different columns. Basically, on this form, you're giving us permission to send your information out to a third party, which is the college, and you're acknowledging that you understand that you won't see the counselor letter of recommendation. Why would you not want to see that? Well, colleges expect a confidential communication between the school counselor and the school. It would raise a lot of red flags if someone said, no, I have to see that. So it's really something that the colleges expect you to do is sign off on your rights, and then they'll put a lot of credence into what is shared in that letter. Next is the parent brag sheet. So that's an opportunity for mom or dad to make some comments on how they've observed their high school senior grow over the last 4 years. So what are you particularly proud of? What strengths do you see? And just share any information you think your student may not have shared with us in their student questionnaire. Student questionnaire is multiple pages of open-ended questions. So this is your opportunity to reflect on your high school experience. So we want you to tell us which classes you really love. Tell us which ones were harder for you and how you overcame those challenges. Tell us what events have impacted you really significantly, what your career goals are, what you're interested in, how you spend your free time. And then we're going to use this packet as a springboard for our senior meeting with you. And we're going to talk and have lots and lots of discussion about what you shared and really help you pull the very best stuff out of it so we can put a letter together that really advocates for your admission, is very unique, detailed, and will really help the school get to know you personally as an applicant. Finally, a resume. Your resume is going to be a comprehensive list of all of the things that you've accomplished during high school. Clubs, sports, community activities, if you've held a part-time job, where you've traveled, what you're interested in. Tell me if you held a leadership role, and a little bit about what you do as part of the group. Next are transcript request forms. So for each college that you apply to, you're going to be giving us one transcript request form. These forms are available either online at our guidance website or available in the guidance office. So you fill out one of these forms for each school you're applying to, and within 10 school days, we fulfill that transcript request. So we will send out, in almost all cases, your transcript, the counselor letter of recommendation, and a school report form. You don't have to worry about supplying that school report form. We can access it automatically through the Naviance system. And on that form, you're also going to indicate how you made application. So we talked about the different types of application deadlines. So you're going to tell me if you applied early or regular, and you're going to tell us if you worked on the common application, the coalition, or if you did an individual school application. It is important that these forms make it to us at least 10 days before the deadline. As we have many requests and we want to fill these in a timely fashion for you and get them where they need to be, we do need that time to compile the information and be able to ensure that they arrive safely within that designated time frame and by your deadline. There are two types of transcript request forms, electronic and mail away. And similarly to how you determine for the teacher letters of recommendation which format they take, that's also how you figure out which type of transcript request to use. So you look at your college list in Naviance, take a look once again at that picture icon. If it's the computer screen, you know that that school is an electronic partner with Naviance. And if you see that picture of the postage stamp, you know that you're having to mail your information out to the college. And in that case, you'll bring us a large manila envelope addressed to the school. That one will not have postage on it. Instead, that would require a $2 fee that would cover the initial mailing, the mailing of mid-year reports that happens typically in mid-February, and then potentially the mailing of a final transcript if you do decide to attend school there. I'm going to pass it off now to Ms. Wilson, who's going to cover the next topic.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Wilson. Financial aid is understandably a topic that families and students often have a lot of questions about. For this reason, we do bring in an expert in the topic to come in and speak on it. That will take place in the fall. The date will be October 11th. More information about that night will be forthcoming. But just kind of an overview, there are several different types of financial aid. Grants would be money that are given to students that does not need to be paid back. Scholarships are, is money as well that does not get to be paid back. Work study would be need-based, and then federal loans would be, money that must be repaid with interest. So we've compiled some resources that you can utilize in order to search for scholarships or find out more information about financial aid. FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, this year opens December 1st, which is later than normal. So you have a little bit more time to prepare, collect your information, get your documents ready, and submit that form. We do collect scholarships on our website. Those are mostly going to be local scholarships, so that's definitely a resource that all of our students should take a look at. We update it regularly as we hear, of opportunities from local businesses that we should advertise to our students. There is also a scholarship file in Naviance. You can use the College Board website to search for scholarships. FastWeb is a free scholarship platform as well. HESA is the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority. Raise.me is another platform where students can create a profile over the course of, if you created this profile as a freshman or sophomore, so on and so forth, you can earn micro scholarships for things such as good grades, community service, activities and clubs that you have participated in, and then, the money that is awarded gets awarded by specific schools that you connect with on that platform. Again, the financial aid night this year will be October 11th at 6:30, and we will have an expert in the field come over and be able to address any specific questions that you might have. So where do students complete their applications? A lot of you may have already created a Common App account. Common App is one application that can be used to apply to over 1,000 different schools. Some colleges also may utilize individual applications specific to their school. If they offer you the option to utilize Common App or the school-specific application, they don't have a preference, for one over the other. It would be to your benefit to use Common App because it will definitely help cut down the amount of applications you have to fill out and the work that you have to complete. The website is embedded in the PowerPoint, so you can check that out if you haven't created a common application yet. There is going to be some data points specific to our high school that you're going to be asked within the Common App. So we have listed here Holmdel High School's GPA scale, class size, and then our policy for ranking. Make sure that before you submit your common application, you proofread everything, because once an application is submitted, you cannot go back and edit it or make any changes. We have had students in the past, submit an application and, they put in the wrong GPA or they marked off the wrong application type, and it does create a big problem if, there's something that is wrong on your Common App. So the SRAR or the SSAR is when colleges require students to self-report their grades. A lot of times this is in lieu of the initial official transcript that gets sent to the college. It is important when you're completing the SRAR or SSAR that you utilize an unofficial copy of your transcript and report the grades exactly as you see them on your transcript. Because if you do in fact decide to go to that school and you get accepted in the future, at that point we will send over an official copy of your transcript, and it will be checked against what you reported on the SRAR. And if there is a discrepancy, then that could affect potentially your admissions. There is a tutorial for the SRAR linked here if you need assistance, but it definitely is becoming increasingly popular amongst colleges. Some important dates and deadlines to remember. So as Mrs. Volna was saying, we do need some time to make sure that all of your documents are processed, your letter of recommendation is complete, and gets to the college in a timely fashion. So any college that has an October 15th deadline, we need those transcript request forms by October 1st. Every year there is a Monmouth County Regional College Fair. The date for that has not been released, but as soon as it is, we will notify you. That's a great opportunity to get a chance to speak with college representatives from across the country. October 11th, as I said, is the financial aid presentation. October 18th is going to be the transcript request form due date for all early decision or early action applications. So that's going to be anything within November 1st, November 15th, those types of deadlines. And then December 5th is the deadline for transcript request forms for any application that's due on or before January 15th. If you are planning on playing a Division I or Division II sport, this is definitely something that you should have already been in contact with, with your counselor. We need to make sure that your final transcript, your SAT scores, the required documents are sent to the NCAA clearinghouse so that you are eligible to play college-level sports. But again, this is something that we would have been working with your counselor on throughout the process. But if you have not mentioned to your counselor that you're planning on or being recruited by a college to play a Division I or Division II sport, please make sure you communicate that and touch base with your counselor as soon as possible. Mrs. Marasco is going to take it over now.
All right. Hello, I'm Mrs. Marasco. Now that you have received all this information or had a quick refresher, I am going to log on to Naviance and Common App and actually put all this into action, which I think will be really helpful for our seniors as well, because this is probably what they want to be doing in the moment. We had a lot of students that when they registered said that they were ready to begin working on their applications. So again, I do want to stress not to skip ahead. There are points that we want you to see how it's done before you do it yourself, especially the FERPA waiver and the matching, because once you answer that question and match, you cannot change your answer. So we will start by logging in to Naviance. So you get to the Naviance login page by going to the Holmdel High School counseling website. Up here under more, there's a drop-down. Naviance login. So I am going to log in under our Johnny Holmdel student, who is a imaginary peer. Okay, so a lot of our students have put their schools, their college lists right now under the colleges I'm thinking about. That was the list that we were working on when we were meeting during the junior year. I do quickly want to point out that when you pull under the drop down, here are those college searches that were discussed earlier. the Super Match, right over here on the left, the Advanced College Search. Those are two of the more popular ones. Johnny still has a couple of schools left in his colleges I'm thinking about. As a senior, you will only be working under colleges I'm applying to. So you need to now move your list of colleges from colleges I'm thinking about over to colleges I'm applying to. To do that, you will come over to your thinking about list, and you will click on the schools that you want to move over, and then you'll, up here on the top right, move to application list. It will now pull this page up, which asks you how you are applying. And this drop-down will show you what admissions options that this school offers and the deadline associated with it. I like to always say that if for some reason you see different information, always go by the school's direct website. So if you have a question about, say, University of Florida, about a specific date, go directly to University of Florida's website, because Naviance and Common App pull from the school. So Johnny is going to be applying regular decision. He will be applying via Common App, but notice how it gives you direct to institution or via Common App. This is where you are telling us what application you're using. So if you are using the University of Florida's application, you will be putting direct to institution. That will affect what forms your counselor submits on your behalf and what forms your teacher submits who are writing your rec letters on your behalf, because there are Common App specific teacher forms that go with their rec letter, and there are Common App specific secondary school report forms that go with the rec letter and the school profile and the transcript. So Johnny will be applying via Holmdel, and he is undecided about whether he's submitting his test scores. So we are now going to add these applications. So we are now under the colleges I'm applying to. You see that Johnny at the University of Florida, but he also has all these other schools on his application list. Under submission type, you'll see all these colorful boxes or the red postage stamp. That is how you know whether it's an electronic school or a mailing school, and whether you want to submit the electronic transcript request form or the mailing transcript request form. Georgetown's still, they always like to be special. Georgetown is still a mailing school, so usually almost every school will most likely be electronic. Georgetown tends to be the one that is still not, which is why I always include that in our example. However, the blue box here shows that it is an electronic school and that you are applying via the Common App. You may also see an empty blue monitor, and that means that we will be submitting our teacher rec forms, our counselor letters via Naviance, but it is not a Common App school, but you can still submit the application materials through Naviance. All right. Scrolling down, or even up top here under colleges, letters of recommendation. So at this point, almost all of you hopefully have already talked to the teachers that are going to write your rec letters. So we talked about asking them in person first and then requesting them on Naviance. Here is where you're going to do that. So Johnny already asked Ms. Davis for a bunch of schools, but he decided to cancel that request, which is why you see that. We are going to ask Ms. Michaud. So Ms. Michaud and Johnny already spoke, and Ms. Michaud is more than happy to write a rec letter. So we are going to come on here under the drop down. We are going to find her name. Secondly, we are going to choose the schools that Ms. Michaud will be sending her letter to. You want to pay very close attention to this page. Notice how Bucknell has one required letter, but 3 are allowed, and you've already requested 1. I think that they're including the canceled application there. However, Monmouth allows 4, Seton Hall only allows 2, and University of Florida and Virginia Tech do not accept rec letters as part of their application process. That tends to be a theme of some of the larger state schools. They do not want rec letters, which means that your subjective part, meaning your essay, will be probably a larger piece of the application as well as your transcript. So when you are requesting, say you have 2 teachers, and there's a school that may only require and allow 1 letter, and there are schools that do that. James Madison is one of those. They want 1 letter. They will not read any additional letters. I have personally asked the admissions counselor that. They don't care who it is. Don't send any more. They will not read it. Okay, so say you have 2 teachers that are writing a rec letter. Who are you sending to James Madison? I don't have one on here that says 1. But if you're requesting that 2nd teacher, you probably want to go through and select the individual schools that you want that teacher's letter to go to. Okay? So if you are asking Mr. Bird, but you want Ms. Michaud's letter to go to James Madison, you do not want to mark off James Madison when you are adding Mr. Bird. We are going to be going through this together. You know, the students are allowed to come up and talk to their counselors. This is something we're going to be doing out on the workstation part of it, but I want to make sure that this is clear because the students have always, a lot of students come up and they've already decided whose letters are going where, so this is how you ensure that that happens the way that you have in your head. We will then go ahead and send Ms. Michaud a nice thank you or message, and we are going to submit the request. You can see now that, oh, I did cancel. So it looks like both of them are still requested. I tried to cancel Davis before. So you will see when you go back onto this letters of recommendation, you'll see both of the teachers that you requested, the status. You will also see pending or submitted as well. So you will actually be able to see whether that teacher has submitted the rec letter or not. And you can, of course, click the cancel button if you, for some reason, change your mind. We are now going to go to Common App because I want to show you a few pieces there before we match the accounts. So we are going to now sign on to Johnny's Common App account. So Johnny has started his application. You can see up on the top, his dashboard has some information about the schools already on his list. Here, under My Colleges, it will show you the progress of what you've done under each school, and under each school is where you will review and submit. So while you complete one application, you have to submit it under each college's tab. You will also see that Cornell here has a writing supplement. So this is where you find the writing supplement, and it will, when you click on it, it will show you what question they specifically have for that specific school. So this is an additional open-ended question, maybe an additional essay that they want you to answer, and then you have to review and submit the writing supplement separate as well. To add to this list, you will go under College Search. It's simple. Type in the name of the school, find the correct one, and click Add, and that will add it immediately to your My Colleges list here. Here is the application. Johnny has begun working on his application. As you can see, there's a green check mark next to profile. That means that he has completed, or at least filled out, every single part of the questions under the profile page. So you can see as we scroll down, all of these individually have green check marks as well. If for some reason Johnny did not complete the demographics section, all the other green check marks would still be showing, but the green check mark under profile would not be seen because there are still sub-questions under profile that need to be completed. Under education, I do want to show some things on here that are recurring questions we get from students. So underneath, it is, underneath grades, that information in the handout is where you will be, this is where you'll be submitting the information we provided in the handout. Class size, 250. The GPA scale is 4.0. Your student may have above a 4.0, that is fine. The scale is still a 4.0 because it is a weighted scale, which is what you're marking on the bottom here. It's weighted. His individual GPA you get from your transcript, which we have included in your folder. And up here, the class ranking, none. Holmdel High School does not provide ranking. These will be the same except for the individual GPA, answers for every single student. Under testing, here is where you are going to mark whether you are going to submit test scores or not. This is where you can self-submit test scores. Some students want to submit their scores for some schools and not others. You can do that. What we have advised students to do is fill this out with no for the schools that you're not submitting it for. Once you submit it and you change the application, it does not change the applications you have already submitted. So you can submit the applications to the colleges you are not sending your SAT scores for, come back here, instead of no, mark yes, self-report your scores, and then you can submit it to the schools that you do want to submit your SAT scores for. Under the activities section, here is where you're going to pull the information from your resume and put it here. You have a max of 10 sections to put your activities. You, of course, are going to want to prioritize which activity you're going to put first. You can ask mom and dad. It's like filling out a resume. When they put their resume together, whatever the most recent and the most relevant experience they have is going to be top on that resume. Whatever the most important and the most involved activity that you've done, you want to make sure that comes first on your activity list. If you find that you are doing more than 10 activities, and this usually does not happen, there is a place under the individual schools where they will allow you to attach the resume if the college will allow it. So under Bucknell, under questions, there is a place for activities. If you wish to submit your resume, you may upload it here. Not every college is going to give you that option because not every college wants your resume. They are simply asking for the information that they want to gather for when they review the students for admission. A couple more points here, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Rizzatello. So the writing, here is where you're going to mark which essay topic you used. And here, under additional information, it's anything else that you want to put on this application that is not found anywhere else. I have some students that say, well, I really bombed my sophomore year math class, but it was because of this, this, and this. I was sick, blah, blah, blah. You can put it here. If it can't, for some reason it can't be found, you're not writing about it in your essay, you want to explain like a gap or an up and down in your transcript, you can put it there. That is a place that you can put information that there's no other place for it. And then last thing, I want to match it. And this is very important. So when we go to, in order for your teachers and counselors to submit our forms, you need to have matched your Common App and Naviance accounts. And this is the process by doing it. So you're going to match the account, hit match the account, log in. Is going to say, I agree to enable Naviance to access certain information on Common App. And you have to make sure you come on here under Common App to complete it as well. So you're going to have only one school you have to go under. You don't have to go under every single college. So under Recommenders and FERPA, complete release authorization. So here, this describes FERPA. What this means is what Ms. Vona described, how you are waiving your right to redirect letters and what that means. So I understand that. This is acknowledging that every school that I've attended may release requested information. And although I am completing this just under Bucknell, this is my answer for every school on my Common App list. So I'm going to go ahead and waive it. I understand that this pertains to all colleges. And you're going to sign it and date it. And then we can come back to Naviance. And then you should be matched, and it's completed. I'm going to show you, last thing, why this is important. I'm going to show you kind of behind the scenes here. Okay, some reason was allowing me to get on before. But when your counselor logs onto their account, if you have not matched, I was going to show you that it will not allow us to submit it. Also, if you do not have the same schools on your Common App and your Naviance account, it will not allow us to submit it as well. So say you gave us a transcript request form for Penn State, right, or for Bucknell. And Bucknell was in your Common App account, but not in your Naviance account, or your Naviance account, not in your Common App account, I am not able to submit that to your to the college. We are probably going to have to call you up and say, hey, you need to add this to your Common App, or you need to add this to your Naviance. So that's one of the common glitches that that happen. So make sure that you are adding your schools to both lists. Additionally, when you are adding a school after the fact that you've already added teachers for, you need to let the teachers know that you have added an additional college. They will not automatically be notified, so you need to let them know, hey, I added University of Florida or Florida State to my list. I need you to submit that letter to them. All right, I'm going to pass it to Ms. Rizzatello. Just going to wrap it up before we do our hands-on.
Just a quick thank you to our counselors for putting this together. I hope that you gain some knowledge on the college application process. We are going to move into the working session, so if you have any questions for the counselors, you wanted to work on maybe matching, doing everything on Naviance, that's where you can do that. Just please be mindful that there's a bunch of people here and only 5 counselors, so try not to spend too much time there. Really quick, you're probably wondering what's next, so what do I do now? You're going to need to fill out your senior packet in its entirety, so that means your questionnaire, parents, your time to brag about your kids, the release of records. From then, you're going to request your senior meeting with your counselor. We're going to start those after the 2nd week of school. And you will also be able to submit your transcript request forms after that meeting with your senior counselor. Anything you want me to add? Is that good? No? Good. All right. This will be emailed to you, the slideshow, in addition to all the other seniors as well. And then you will be able to access this recording on the main website too. Just another thing, I did put the website, the Instagram, the Twitter handles all in the packet. If you did not get your folder because you came in late, please stop by to see me so I can give you yours. I encourage you to follow us on social media. We've been doing a lot of updates to Twitter, Instagram, the websites. You'll be able to access a lot of scholarship information there, any updates, meetings. Ms. Wilson talked about the financial aid, so all of that will be available on that. Also look for a newsletter that's going to be coming soon. And I think that's it for me. So we're going to move to the working session. There's tables and chairs set up outside, so you guys can feel free to hang out there, and then we'll be able to answer any other questions.